We've been working with Synergy Associates to better understand the Dell Recertified program and what that means for organizations looking to maximize their IT spend. We wanted to see what it's like to get one of these systems in from Synergy Associates distributor network and really get a feel for how the whole process works from ordering all the way through deploying the system. Now, we've been in this industry for over a decade. I've worked personally with Dell for over 20 years, and I didn't even know this program exists. At first blush, you might think Dell Recertified is the same thing as Dell Outlet, and while they're adjacent, they're not the same thing. The two programs are similar, but they're not exactly the same, and Dell Recertified makes things a lot easier, a lot more flexible, and a lot more cost-effective than what Dell Outlet offers. That means this PowerEdge R750 can be delivered to you almost immediately, fully customizable, and less expensive than the alternatives on the Dell Outlet store. So what exactly is the Dell Recertified program? We've been working with a company called Synergy Associates to figure all of this out. There's a lot of nuance here, but what's really important to understand is that these servers are like new condition. They come with a service tag that'll show it as new. They come with a 5-year next business day warranty that will treat it just like any other server in the system. And it has everything else you'd want. iDRAC, all the other licenses are available for it, more support's available for these systems, and they're configurable any way the customer likes with Dell certified parts. These systems are not refurbished, and that's an important distinction. There was nothing ever broken or wrong with this system. It was just a system that Dell couldn't sell as new. This happens a lot with systems that are created for trade show events. Those systems go out, they sit on a trade show table, kind of like this, for a week, and then come back in when Dell doesn't need the system anymore. It can be sold through this program. Another thing that happens a lot is that customers will cancel an order or modify an order after it's already been placed. Imagine a customer placing an order for 1,000 PowerEdge R750s, and maybe they receive 500, business conditions change, and they don't need the other 500. But Dell's already produced them, boxed them, and is ready to ship them. These can no longer be sold as new. This is where Synergy Associates comes in. They'll take that inventory, bring it into their warehouse. Now these systems are ready to ship immediately from Synergy, but not just that system. The system can be fully configured to whatever the customer needs. So when you look at Dell Outlet servers, those systems are pre-configured. There's no negotiation on the componentry inside. Synergy's Dell Recertified program is entirely different because it lets you take these systems and say, I need a different NIC. Maybe I want 25 gig or 100 gig. Maybe I want a different drive configuration or a different backplane in the system. These systems sold through the Dell Recertified program are also more cost effective, which makes your budget stretch out even further than you thought possible. But what's really interesting is, like I said, I've been in this industry for decades. I didn't know this existed. This is a fundamentally different way to procure servers. We're talking about Dell PowerEdge today, but Synergy supports HPE, Aruba, and a bunch of other products in their portfolio. So for IT organizations that need IT solutions delivered quickly and cost effectively, this program is one worth evaluating, worth understanding, and worth your time to investigate. So clearly we've already taken this server out, we've played with it extensively and published our report on it. But one of the fundamental things that's important about the Dell Recertified program is that everything feels as new. And part of that is the shipping experience and the unboxing experience. So let's take a look at that. As you can see, it's a Dell standard factory box, so as soon as it shows up at your loading dock, or in our case, our front door, it looks and feels just like any other Dell does. That's a big part of this value proposition from Dell Recertified, is understanding that this is real, like new Dell through and through, from the box to the service tag to all the componentry inside. Now that I've told you a little bit about the Dell Recertified program, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this system specifically. I'm going to bring Kevin in, who runs our lab. He's seen probably 100 Dell servers, and if anything is askew, Kevin will know, because Dell's very programmatic about their builds. Every cable run is very specific for the task, the length, everything about it is very much specific to every single Dell PowerEdge system. So let's take a look inside and see what Kevin can find.
We have our recertified R750 out in front of us right now, and we're going through it. We see basically what you'd want to see inside of a server.
Now, you were always concerned about the cable runs in these because Dell has specific cable kits for every single run.
Yeah, and it's not just like a specific length of wire, but also how the wire is bent. You don't want a lot of wires excessively blocking airflow, things like that. And it's nice to see that even though this was a CTO build, the backplane, the wiring for it, there's nothing really impeding the airflow more than necessary. and it looks like these are literally factory bent wires. And as we look in here a little better, you get to see the layout's really clean. Everything's effectively the minimum amount of space required for every single cable run. So as we dig a little bit deeper into the system, we start taking off all the cowling, and this is cowling needed for movement of air through the most efficient means possible. So you don't want a lot of air blowing out the back of the chassis, for example, not through cards, things like that.
And these are customized too, depending on the risers and the backplanes in the system, right?
Yeah. So to start removing the basic cowls, the PCI risers need to start coming out. And from here, this particular build came with all risers pre-installed, and these are set up for a lot of full-length cards.
Now you said CTO before, that means the system was customized for our needs, and then that means things like these risers can be fully tuned for each user, which is a really big advantage of this program versus buying whatever is available off the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah, Dell has a fantastic layout with their chassis. It gives you a lot of PCI slots. You get a lot of onboard components that you're not really trading a onboard NIC for available PCI slots. There's a lot of stuff that's onboard as well as expansion space available.
So as you pull these risers out, does anything stand out to you in terms of the Dell systems, the dozens that we've seen from Dell versus this one from Synergy Associates?
No, this thing looks exactly how I'd expect to see a brand new system.
All right, so visually though, so far we've taken out almost everything, and there's nothing that stands out to you as different than a new system.
No, it looks perfect.
Okay. All right, so now we're down to the CPUs and DRAM. They've even got the DRAM spacers in here, which is something Dell does a really good job at to make sure airflow is always solid. But the blanks would be an easy thing to skip if you were, not paying full attention.
Well, yeah, especially if you're going to be changing the RAM configuration side of the system. I mean, sometimes in our lab we might forget these spacers, but if this thing is going into production, if it's going into the field, you have a lot of these systems where you don't want to have excessive airflow, because at the end of the day, running a fan a little bit higher over a given period of time is higher power consumption. It's more money spent.
This helps ensure all the airflow is efficient, which Dell is really good at, which is important that Synergy maintains that through these systems.
Yeah. And then finally, with the last PCI riser off, and this is, I mean, they have a ton of risers in here. You get to see the OCP slots, which this is for onboard networking. You have another slot that for a replaceable iDRAC card, and then even the onboard 1 gig Ethernet's on a replaceable card. So very serviceable system, and everything is exactly the way you'd want it. That nothing discernible from this compared to a brand new build.
Now that we know that the hardware is good in this R750, I want to understand the software, because that's another important part of the equation. If I can get the server in fast, that's really great, but if I've got to spend a week updating BIOS and firmware and all these other software components, that's a problem in my overall total cost of ownership. So let's take a look at iDRAC and the software components to understand how modern the software is and how ready to roll this thing is out of the box. So one of the best things about PowerEdge servers is definitely iDRAC. So we've logged into iDRAC here, and what I wanted Kevin to check on is how current is everything in iDRAC, as in when we get this system in, does my IT admin have to spend a lot of time updating the controller, BIOS, all those sorts of things? What are we looking at?
So as we drill into the system inventory, and especially the firmware inventory, we see that all the main devices have their revisions as the most current from when the system shipped. There was one that carried over that iDRAC got onto version 7 right around the week or so before the system shipped, but that's a thing that you can knock out in production. But all of the other items, BIOS level, system backplane, all of those items were current.
What about the service tag then? So that's the other thing that we're concerned about. How do we check on that to make sure that Dell validates the warranty?
Yeah, so as we can check this thing out, so through the Support Assist tab or just copy and pasting it onto the Dell website, you can check your warranty status based on the service tag. And this it takes us right to the Dell page. We paste it into search field, And we get to see that right now the warranty expires of May 30th, 2028. So 5 years of warranty, on-site service, everything checks out.
Now, I did mention that this system comes with a service tag, and that's on the little tag here that everyone knows and loves from PowerEdge servers. We published our service tag, which I know is a little bit crazy, but we wanted you guys to be able to see it and validate it and understand that the Dell reporting system reports this system as new. It shows the 5-year next business day warranty. So everything about this from the warranty and the service tag standpoint check out as well. We've got a full report up on the Dell Recertified program now. We'll link to it in the description below. So before you consider buying brand new servers, this is a program that's really worth checking out.